Hi, this is Bruce Buffer, your voice of the Octagon, and you're listening to MMA Mental.
Welcome to this week's MMA Mental podcast. My name is Ray. The MMA Mental podcast is sponsored by UK Flyweight and the UFC Live Facebook page. You can follow us on Twitter at MMA Mental, and you can also follow our sponsors at UKFW. And as for the Facebook page, you can like the UFC Live Facebook page and also check out MMAmental.com Facebook page and the UFC Games Facebook page if you like fancy MMA. I also like to shout out to our fellow podcasts, which is the MMA podcast hosted by Jake Walters and the Word on the Street hosted by Ramses. I'll be teaming up with another website called www.mmajam.ca, which is based in Canada, so please go and check that site out. And I also want to shout out the newly formed MMA Mental Roundtable. I've been doing a show already, but we've had a few changes. We've let some people go, added some new people in. So the new panel now is top MMA journalist Brad Wharton, your MMA's featherweight fighter and journalist Jay Furness, and the UFC middleweight Luke Barnett. We'll be getting together on fight week of a big UFC card and discussing all the big fights. Okay, on this week's show, we start with a new segment. And we're also joined by 4 UK fighters who are making a name for themselves in the world of MMA. Okay, so we start out with, first up is the new segment, which is called Potentia Performance with Dave Bond. Dave is a strength and conditioning coach, and he will go through a different component of his coaching on a weekly basis. We introduced Dave to our listeners a couple of weeks ago as he was a guest on the show, but he kicks off his segment this week. We then talk to Andrew Fisher, who is 3 fights away from fighting for the Bellator Featherweight Title. He talks about his road to Bellator, his epic battle at Ommac, and his plans to leave his mark on the Bellator Tournament. We then move from Bellator to UFC and chat with UK Flyweight Phil Harris. He chats about getting his first UFC win at Wembley and prepares for the ultra-tough John Lineker. A win means Phil will crack the top 10 of the division and be on the brink of a title shot. Next up is TUF Smashes runner-up Bradley Scott. Brad becomes the first person in UFC history to leave the house and move up a weight class. He tells about a nasty injury which led to the layoff and preparing for his middleweight debut against Michael Kuiper. Our final guest is another UK fighter 3 fights away from fighting for a Bellator title. Martin Stapleton talks about his career so far, including TUF 9 and the Cage Contender 8-man tournament which he recently won. He talks about this massive opportunity and how he intends to make the most of it. It's now time for our new segment, which is Potentia Performance by Dave Bond, and this week he'll be talking about the specific phases of training between fights. I'm now going to pass you over to Dave.
Hello, Ray. Hope you're well today. Yeah, today I want to focus specifically on pretty much because of a lot of the feedback I've had since I spoke last, and I think a lot of clarity that people want around strength and conditioning. So I wanted to address today was the different phases of training that we use in between fights. So rather than it just being one fight finishes, getting back in the gym and we do the same stuff right up until the next fight, I tend to break all of the fighters' training down a lot more specifically into different phases. Each phase we have something much more specific that we work on and something we look to achieve. So I'm going to go through today the phases that I tend to work with. I know different strength and conditioning coaches perhaps work to different methods, but this one I find works really well for me. So what I want to look at first is if I'm working with a fighter and they come to see me, then after I've done all my postural assessments and post history and things like that, then one thing I work with closely before I do anything is the coaches. Once we know what the coaches are doing, once we know what fights are planned, even if they've been matched or not matched, we'll work to specific dates if we can. If not, then everything is obviously adaptable. But I will always start with my fighters. I'll prep them. I'll prep their bodies for the exercise that I'm going to get them to do. So the first phase of training I always introduce to the fighters I work with is what I call my anatomical adaptation phase, which is where I spend time prepping their body for the exercise that's coming their way. If I don't know those fighters, and even if I do, even if I've worked with them for a number of phases, if I've given them time off after a fight and they're on the advice of their fight camp and also the advice that I've given, that I need to prep their body again to prevent injury, to make sure that I'm going to get the most out of them in the phases that are coming up. So first phase of training, anatomical adaptation phase.
Quickly, before we go on, you've mentioned a few times about prepping their body. For someone who, for the layman, somebody like myself, can you just explain to us a bit more what you mean by prepping their body?
if I want a fighter to perform in a certain way, if I want to get the most out of the second phase of training, I'm going to, I want to get the most out of that. So for me to get the most out of it, it's like anything in life, is for me to get the most out of that, I have to have the body in the best condition to be able to deal with that training. Now, if I'm going to take a fighter straight from having 2 weeks off or a week off post-fight into suddenly doing maximal strength phase, there's always that risk that I'm going to injure them. I haven't really spent time getting to know their bodies again with regards to niggles they've picked up, maybe imbalances that they've got, and also taking into account the fact that they've had that little bit of break and that little bit of rest. Now, what I want to do is I want to spend a little bit of time just going through, maybe they've had the time off post-fight. I now want to get them, their body's kind of a little bit more conditioned to perhaps the exercise that's coming their way. So literally maybe spending a couple of weeks, depending on the time frames we've got, maybe a month, again if we've got a bit more time, just kind of like doing nice, light, gentle exercise with a purpose in mind still, depending on the individual, but with a purpose in mind. Just getting them ready to taking them to the second phase of training, which is where the workload gets more intense.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So what I do after that, once I've prepped their body, and the biggest thing I want to do here is in my second phase of training. Hopefully, this will clarify a few bits of why the prep stage is so important. Is because I bring them into my second phase of training. Again, all the time I'm communicating with their coaches, and I'll start to work on what I call their maximal strength phase. Now, everyone looks at maximal strength phase, but I'm trying to get them lifting the big block I can, and to an extent, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get them shifting as much weight as possible from A to B, depending on what the movement I'm trying to get them to do. It may be that the biggest weight is their body weight. If I'm doing a pull-up movement, then it may be that the maximal strength phase incorporates their body weight, depending on what their abilities are. But during that maximal strength phase, I want to develop muscle. But not only develop muscle, I want to spend time focusing on imbalances within the body, anything that any niggles that they've got. They're looking at injury prevention throughout this. So I'm now starting to push the body a little bit. I'm now starting to build muscle. I'm now starting to sort of really develop them and build a real foundation on them as an athlete. Now, all the way through all of these phases, they'll be doing their fight-specific training. They'll be training out of the gyms, down at the fight clubs. So they're still having all the stuff we're doing is still automatically kind of being kept on top of by the fight training they're doing. But I specifically spend time just trying to kind of bring that balance back into the body. So if they've picked up niggles, which I know people, depending on the length of the fight, depending on what they've done, depending on their prep for the fight before, might not be too many, or we may have seen stuff through the maintenance phase beforehand, which again make more sense later. But I spend this time kind of trying to get the body structurally sound, so that injury prevention is in place, as well as muscle development and body development. And this is kind of my time when I'd really try and get them stronger, get them more stable, really kind of try and develop them as much as we can in whatever area that specific fighter needs to work on. Once I finish the maximal strength phase, which again will depend a lot on that phase of training, again, I try and spend anything from sort of 6 weeks, couple of months. Again, a lot of it will depend on what date we have in mind for their next fight. Again, I've had it before where we've had very quick prep times for fights. Phases get cut down a lot more, and sometimes it's a case of prepping the body for training and then jumping perhaps straight into a little bit of maximal strength phase, but then jumping straight into our third phase of training, which is the conversion phase. Now, the maximal strength phase, if I'm getting them to lift weights from A to B, then what I need to do is make sure any muscle development they're getting and any muscle that they're establishing on their bodies is relevant to mixed martial arts. So it's pointless me having a fighter who can squat ridiculous amounts or bench press ridiculous amounts or deadlift ridiculous amounts if it's not relevant to what they're trying to do. Now, and just using those exercises as examples, not as specific. So what I'd use within the conversion phase is I will take all of the developments we've had through the maximal strength phase and I will convert, spend time converting so that all of that development becomes relevant for mixed martial arts. So for me personally, I try and use, I love kettlebell work, I love using functional training stuff, as well as I'm also big into my strength stuff as well. So I will use exercise. I love using battle ropes, sled work, all things that get them used, not just specific muscles, but also the full body. So they have to activate their core. I love building foundations through the maximal strength phase with doing squats and deadlifts, which they can then convert to getting the full body kind of working a lot more intensely through the conversion phase. So really, really spending time with the coaches from the fighters' camps as well. Finding out what they're doing on the days that they're doing it, and then tying in that conversion phase there. So all the muscle fibers and that we're converting is then being put to good use with what they're doing as well. Once I've finished that conversion phase, so the third phase of training, generally I hit the fourth phase of training when our fighters go into fight camps. So when they hit that kind of, maybe 4 or 5 weeks before their fight, and they hit their fight camp mode, where the intensity within what they're doing down at their fight gyms kind of increases, then I will hit what I call my maintenance phase. That's the time where what I'm trying to achieve and the developments that I'm trying to have with the athletes and the results that I'm trying to get need to kind of almost go on, not on the back foot, but we need to maintain those results. The development time has stopped, and what we need to do now is we need to maintain that. We need to work with the camps on the intensity levels that they're being put through, and we need to maintain their fitness, their structural soundness. We need to, everything that we've achieved through the maximal strength phase and the conversion phase, we want to maintain through fight camp, so they can really, really focus on their fight-specific training without worrying about any muscle soreness, without worrying, for me specifically, without worrying about, I shouldn't really do this in fight camp because I've got to get up and throw weights around tomorrow, or whatever it may be. So what we do is we take a bit of back foot and we maintain. If I get calls saying, they've picked up a bit of a niggle here, or they've got a bit tight here, then that maintenance phase may include just having purely foam rolling sessions, whereas I tend to get the athletes to do that themselves anyway throughout, but I may be pulling them in and going, right, we need to do more specific and more in-depth sort of foam roll, stretch, flexibility. We'll get them booked in for massages if that's necessary as well. So right up until the fight itself, we perform the maintenance phase. Now we work really closely with our athletes when it comes to weight cuts as well. So we look at the nutrition, and through every phase of the training we do, we will advise on nutrition as well. Now, I'm not going to go too much into nutrition because I know that's something we spoke about addressing in a future segment, but just to kind of give an overview, we will, through the maintenance phase, we will address weight cuts, and we'll adapt their training within that maintenance phase to hit weight cuts as well. I know one of the fighters I was working with, Kerry Hughes, who fought for a pro debut about a month ago. For her prep phase, she was really, really, we got her prepping and weight cutting relatively early, and so her weight cut was quite straightforward, but we also knew that 4 weeks out of the fight that she was carrying too much muscle. Through the maximal strength and the conversion phase, because of the tests that we do, we knew at that time she had to weigh in at 63.5 kilograms, and she was carrying 61 kilograms of lean muscle, which anyone, whether they're strength and conditioning based or not, will know that doesn't leave a lot of leeway for anything else. So training then straight away through the maintenance phase will adapt to take that into account. So we will work very closely and will adapt their training specifically to make sure that, in this case, we were burning muscle, as well as bringing the body fat down continuously, making sure the performance level stayed high. So very, very subtly, we're just burning off a little bit of muscle, but making sure that the muscle we're losing is the muscle that she doesn't need. So when she went into that first pro fight, she was in phenomenal shape. If you've seen the pictures, you'll see the sort of physique that she had while she was fighting. And that was purely because we could monitor the kind of training that she does, with the fight guys. I mean, she trains phenomenally hard with Jack and with Jack Mason and with Steve Barley. But then to bring her into the gym and kind of complement what those guys are doing to ensure that she hits weights but stays in the best possible physical shape. So that's our role. Through the maintenance phase, we take a little bit of a back step, I suppose. We maintain, just as an overview, we maintain and we assist when it comes to weight cutting and advise heavily when it comes to nutrition for the weight cuts as well. So we go into the fight. So just to clarify, so far we've done our anatomical adaptation phase, which is where we prep the body. We've then gone into our maximal strength phase, where we develop the body. We've then gone into our conversion phase, where all of those developments that we've created, we convert relevant to mixed martial arts specifically. And then once we've converted, we then maintain in the lead up to the fight. Once we've maintained and the fight's been and gone, normally well, so far, every time after the fight, the communications we've had with their coaches and the discussions we've had, the fighters have been given a bit of a break, whether it's a week and a half, 2 weeks, and I call that their transitional phase. So the transitional phase is the time between one program and the next, or one block of phases and the next. So that transitional phase, period of rest before we then, that 2 weeks off, we then take them back into back to the beginning, and we start prepping their body again to do the whole lot again.
It's amazing the different phases. I mean, for someone who doesn't, for people who don't train in MMA, or people who are thinking about training MMA, it's surprising how much there is to it. It's not just a matter of going in and sparring or learning technique, is it? The technique's obviously a big aspect, but this is just as important as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the great thing from my point of view with the fighters we work with at Potentia is I'm fortunate enough that Steve Biley, who's he's one of the head coaches for a lot of the pro fighters, but he's just joined us as a trainer as well. And I'm fortunate enough to have him pretty much in the centre every single day of the week. That I can, he's working with the fighters down at BKK and communicating with likes of Jack Mason and the other coaches as well. And they'll feed back to him on a daily basis what they're doing. And because I train myself as well. I train Steve's my coach as well. It means that I get the insight to see what the guys are doing, what they're being put through, what they're having to experience. So I think that for me to really get the best out of the athletes that I work with, and this is why I specifically focus with mixed martial arts, is because I can kind of understand what they're going through, and that then helps me understand, actually, if I've just gone through that, the last thing I want to do tomorrow is a heavy leg session or something like that. So I can kind of relate a little bit to that, and I find that really, really important, is that relation to really understanding your sport and really understanding how the sport works. Because then when you implement these phases of training, which I use the same principle with phases of training through a few different sports that I work with, but the content of those phases will obviously vary massively depending on the sport I'm working with it. And by understanding the sport, I'm able to give a better diagnostic of what I'm going to put within those phases. And like I say, it's like I said in the last time we spoke, is I love gathering data. I love capturing progressions. I love seeing where we are and where we're going and what we're trying to achieve. I'm a very practical person, but I don't like being fluffy in the sense of, if someone comes into me to train, I need to get them stronger. Okay, how much stronger do we need to get? What do we need to get? Where do we need to hit weight? Everything I have is, I know it's probably a little bit corny, but I smart goal it. So specific goals. Everything I do is very, it's very, very measured and reviewed all the time.
So for our listeners then, if they want more information on strength and conditioning, training with you or training with Potentia Performance, how can they contact yourself and Potentia Performance?
Well, like I said, the guys, we've got a range of experts within our centre, especially for mixed martial arts. We work closely with BKK fighters. We've got a great link with the guys down there, and it's just growing. I mean, as they've got some fantastic people coming out of there, we're working with them, and because we're creating such a good relationship, we're then getting the team of sort of mixed martial arts coaches and strength and conditioning guys is slowly growing, and we're getting more of the team involved. So it's not just me. There's a number of guys on the team down there, and we, from sports injury specialists, massage therapists, injuries to specific rehabilitation, strength and conditioning, nutritional, and like I said, even down to we hormonally profile as well. We use a program. One of our trainers does what we call biosignature testing, which again I'll go into more detail in another segment. But we can look at which hormones are imbalanced and we can adapt. So all of that stuff that we do down there is accessible to everyone, whether you're pro, amateur, semi-pro, or even if it's just something that you're interested in for your own personal use, your own personal development, and you don't actually compete. So we're accessible to everyone, and the best thing to do is either get on Twitter, follow me at Dave_B_Potentia, or give me an email, Dave@PotentiaPerformance.co.uk. That's Potentia, which is POTENTIA Performance.co.uk. Just give us a shout. And like I said, even if you're not local to us, we do a lot via Skype, email. We can give advice, and it's great having, like I say, the likes of Kate Mitchell on the team who does the biosignature testing. we have Steve Biley, who's a personal trainer, but also a phenomenal mixed martial arts coach as well, who is also based out of BKK. So a vast team of experts down at our centre who are accessible to everyone all over the UK and beyond.
Well, brilliant. We really appreciate you coming back on, and we're looking forward to doing this on a regular basis for this new segment, which is Potentia Performance by Dave Bond.
No, I look forward to it, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Okay, I'm now joined by Andrew Fisher. Andrew will be fighting on the Bellator 99 main card in the Featherweight Tournament against Joe Tamaranglo. Andrew, thank you for joining me today.
Hello, mate. All right.
I don't know if I said his name right, but
I think it's Baby Joe Tamanglo.
Okay, brilliant. So obviously, I do want to talk to you about this. It's a huge fight, a huge opportunity. It's, to be involved with Bellator is fantastic. But before that, I'd like to get a little bit of your background. Now, you've been fighting professionally since 2007. What got you into mixed martial arts?
I used to get picked on quite a bit when I was at school, and I started training just to kind of get a bit of confidence, and then I ended up getting quite good at it and went pro. And then it just all went from there, really. I just joined a traditional jiu-jitsu club.
Okay.
And that was it, really. And then I moved on to MMA from there, and then I'm here now in America.
Was BJJ was that your base then when you started the sport?
It wasn't BJJ. It was like a traditional jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
The self-defense stuff. It's some things are alright, but it's not good for MMA. It was just kind of got me into the sport.
Okay, and then where did you go from there then with regards to your training?
There's not much coaching where I'm from in the northeast, so it was quite difficult actually to find any decent clubs and stuff, really. So I had a few clubs and stuff like that, but kind of there's a lot of us in the northeast, and we kind of just train together and that, and we've all got our own clubs now as well, and we just feed off each other. So it's because there's not much where the fighters who are in the northeast now, they kind of, like my generation, we're kind of the coaches.
Yeah.
So I've got to watch a lot of YouTube and travel about to get training and stuff. And Ross Pearson, he would like travel away to America and then come back and show stuff and show drills and stuff like that. And then we've all improved that way, really.
So do you obviously train with Ross now then, do you?
Well, I'm in America at the minute. He's because we're from the same town. I've trained with Ross for a long time, but he's actually at Alliance in San Diego, and that's where my opponent fights out of as well. So it's a bit weird.
Oh, okay, so are you going to get inside information off Ross then?
No, I'm a sportsman, like I wouldn't ask him anything,
No.
And Ross has actually come to corner us as well.
Oh, fantastic!
So it is a bit weird, but I'm actually training with, because he's from Guam, my opponent, and John Tuck, who's in the UFC. He's training with me, and he's friends with
oh gosh,
Baby Joe. So it works both ways, doesn't it?
So he's fighting against Norman Park, isn't he, John Tuck?
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Wow, so it's a lot. It's mad the way it all intermixes with each other, really, isn't it?
Yeah, everybody knows everybody, don't they?
Well, let's talk a little bit about your record on the UK scene. I mean, I'm going on your Sherdog Fight Finder. You've got you down as being 12-4. What have been some of your own personal highlights? I mean, you fought on the biggest UK promotions, Ommac, BAMA, Made for the Cage. What have been some of your personal highlights on the UK scene?
Winning the Ommac title, my last fight was one of my favourite ones, I think. Bama was good, I had loads of pullouts on Bama. I was meant to fight first Diego Vital, and he pulled out. Then I was meant to fight Paul Reed, and he pulled out. And then I ended up getting Andy Green last minute replacement. But that's pretty the story of my career. I've been trying to get to break through into the top 10, top 5, for years and years. And every time I got in a fight up there, I wouldn't take it, or they'd pull out at the last minute, and it just had a bit of unluck, really. But it all kind of worked well for us now.
How frustrating is that for you as a fighter when you're preparing for an opponent?
I used to let it get on top of us a bit, and every time I'd pull out, I'd lose a bit of motivation, I'd be sick, and that's actually how I met my manager, Gary Cross. It was just completely randomly added on Facebook by mistake, and I had a negative status on saying about how sick of not getting these good fights or whatever, and then Gary just popped up with a message and says he could help us out, and that's how I'm here, really, to be honest, because of Gary.
That's fantastic. Let's talk a little bit about the Bellator situation there. You say it's because of Gary. Do you want to tell us how that came about? Because I mean, you obviously had made your mark on the UK scene, but to go from Ommac to Bellator is a huge jump up. So how did the Bellator opportunity come about?
They had the Bellator scouts, Zach Light and Ian Matthews. They were coming into England to look at people, and they went to, I think they went to Nottingham and Liverpool, and then my manager got wind of it, and he like pestered them and like got some contacts with them and said if I could go, and I ended up going to the one at Scotland, and but the day before they went the Liverpool one. I think they signed like 4 people from there, and I think one of them might have been Shea Walsh actually as well, and then they see me at up Scotland, and they really liked me. I done really well at the trials, and then they pretty much said they were going to sign us, and then they found out I was fighting Shea Walsh 2 weeks after, so they pretty much just said, "Oh, we'll fight for it."
Wow! So how did that add extra to the fight then, knowing the winner of that fight is going to get?
I think so, because Shea is the toughest man ever. Did you see what happened to his jaw?
Yeah.
Mate, I done that in like the first 90 seconds of the fight or something, and honestly, what a tough man. Like I was when I at the end of the second round, I was sitting on my chair. I was honestly thinking, what do I have to do here? Like, he nails, isn't he?
Yeah, it was crazy. It's a shame, really, they couldn't take both you on, but of course, the nature of the beast
sure he will, you know, cause, well, look how tough he is, you know, he's definitely going to get there, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, let's talk.
That's how he wanted, you know, that's how much he wants it. The fact he was like, it was like, I seen a picture of it afterwards, you know, and it was really bad, and that just proves how tough and how much he wants it.
You're right. It was, and it just shows you how much talent there is, not just in the sport but in the UK as well.
There's loads.
So okay then, you've got this big fight coming up then at Bellator. What do you know about your opponent?
He's shorter than me. He's like 5'4". I think I'm quite a tall featherweight. And he's really athletic and explosive. He's a high level grappler. I think I seen something the other day. He's ranked number 50 in the world. He is at featherweight. But he's really good. He's a tough opponent. You know, he's fit. You know, these are the fights I want. You know, you want big fights. I want to be able to put my mark and move myself closer to that title.
And of course, the winner of the Bellator tournament obviously gets the title shot. How exciting is it for you knowing that you're 3 fights away from fighting for the Bellator Featherweight title?
I cannot wait. You know, like that's all I'm thinking about now as well. For getting to fight Pat Curran next year, and hopefully it'll be in England as well. You never know. I'm pretty sure.
Sorry, go on, carry on.
I'm pretty sure if there's like a few English people do well, they'll have to come to England next year, don't they?
Yeah, well, I know I spoke to the president of Bellator a while ago, Bjorn Rebney, and he was talking about getting the TV deal, and of course they've got that now. So how exciting is it as well, knowing that friends and family back home are going to be able to see you fight?
Oh, it's great, you know. Like I've got especially my hometown Sunderland, I've got a really big following there, and everybody's really nice to us, and I'm pleased to get to watch it as well. I would like for them all to come over, but obviously that doesn't work.
No, it's a
lot.
lot.
My wife and 2 kids back home as well who have left, and I'm really missing them as well, but not long now.
No, it's the event's what, a few weeks out, is it?
It's a week on Friday.
Week on Friday, because Bellator put events on pretty much every week, don't they?
Yeah, they do a season thing like football season, so just like that's everything out once a week until the end of the season, and there's nothing for a few months, then see them again next year.
Now, looking down your resume, I notice you've got a few stoppages by elbows, and of course, in the Bellator tournament, you can't use elbows. How hard is it going to be for you not to use them?
That doesn't matter. I just use my hands instead. It's just you just use the elbow because it was there. Really, that was the only reason. You know, if it's not there, it doesn't matter. I'm not fussed. Like, you know, it's the same rules for him, same rules for me. There's no rules can work against me. You know, you just chop and change depending on what happens. What about,
like, does instinct never take over then? Because obviously, when you train so much and so many of your fights have been involved with that, is it not hard to just when you see the opportunity there, is it not tempted to?
No, not at all. It's just the way you can't really train with elbows anyway. Like they just so you'd never get to actually spar putting elbows in because you might hurt your training partner. So yeah, when you fight, like it's just there. They just happened. You know, there's like a few times when you fight and you put your hand in the face and then you come over the top with an elbow, but you've never thought about doing it. You've never done it before in sparring. You know, it just happens.
And of course, you want with the nature of the tournament as well. You fight 3 times in quite a close period. So will you be staying in the US for the whole of that period then?
Well, I've got my first fight like next week, and then I'm flying back home the next year, so I'm getting to see my family.
Yeah.
Because it's a long time to see them, isn't it? And
Yeah.
then I should be flying straight back. I would think after a couple of days back over here to Arizona.
And what's it been like training in the US?
Oh, it's great. It took a bit getting used to the heat at first, and because it's like people don't understand how hot it is. It's actually a desert. You know, it's like we've all had hot days or been to hot countries, but it's a desert. You know, it's the hottest place you could ever go. It's nobody goes outside. You know, like you walk out the front door and you don't see anybody. Nobody walks about anywhere. It's literally a ghost town.
Wow. I suppose it'll help you adapt to the climate as well, because it's going to be hot where, I guess it's going to be quite hot where you're fighting as well, isn't it, in California?
Well, it's San Diego, it's on the coast, so it's a bit cooler and it has a lot more moisture. When I came here first, and I think we're about 2,000 feet up here, and when I was breathing as well, there's like nothing in the air. The air was so dry as well, I was finding it hard like my first week and a half.
Yeah.
But I've settled in nice and getting used to it now, and the training's so hard here, it's like, sometimes it's a bit different to how we do it at home. Sometimes we go to the gym, we'll do maybe 6 5s or something. Whereas here you'll do like 3 5s, but it's a fight and you're getting a fresh man every round who's been resting and you just get pushed. And so it's a bit more like a fight as well, especially when you don't really know people as well, and everybody's standing around the cage watching you fight as well.
What have the Americans been like? Have they welcomed you with open arms?
Oh, honestly, mate, they're lovely. They're such nice people. I don't know if all Americans are like that or just the MMA lab, but they made us feel really at home. Like, especially like the stars, if you will, the likes of Benson and Ephraim and I can't think of the top of my head. There's a few others as well. You know, they come up and, you know, obviously you're probably a bit nervous when you go to a new gym, but they're coming up and they're asking if you want to pair up with them for drills and stuff. So it makes it a lot easier. It only took maybe a couple of days before I started getting to know people. And like the Ephraim Escudero, he's a really good bloke. The first week we were here, he took us to his house and that, and
nice.
Took us out to watch the UFC and stuff. And we'd only been here 3 days, I think. And he was really nice.
It makes it a lot better, doesn't it, when you've got people like that?
Yeah, it's just easier, you know. Like there's no, like, you go to some gyms in England and everybody's like sizing you up and looking you up and down and stuff, you know. And you come here and everybody's going out the way to be nice to you. That's
the way it should be, really.
Yeah, I think it's like that's because of how the coach is, John Crouch, because he what a good bloke he is, you know. He's like he's one of the best people you'll ever meet. He's so friendly. He's like, I've only been here a couple of weeks, you know, and he's going to come up to San Diego to corners as well, and there's like, I think there's an amateur who'd only been here 2 weeks or something, and John flew halfway because the country just to corner him for a fight and stuff, you know.
That's fantastic.
He's a really good bloke.
I know what another guy that I've had on the show a couple of times fights for the XFC. He's the XFC lightweight champion. Have you trained with Scott as well, Scott Holtzman?
Yeah, well, Scott's stopping in the house with us. He's my friend Scott. He's a good bloke. He is. He's a proper deep South accent. He has.
Yeah, I've spoken to Scott a few times.
Have you spoken to him, have you?
Yeah, I've spoken to him a few times. I work with the XFC. I have their guys on quite regularly, and I've been lucky enough to speak to Scott. I spoke to him before he won the title, actually, and then of course he won the title. Yeah, he's doing really well.
Scott's good. He's a proper athlete as well. He's tough as well. He's really good. There's loads of 155-pounders here. You know, I think I'm probably only 145 here, but I'm probably about the same size as the 155s, so that's how I get the spars mostly.
How is it, obviously, with you fighting at 145, how's your weight? Have you got much weight cut to do?
I'm about on target now, I think. You know, I had about 2 weeks ago, I had a bit of a panic because we went up the mountains on the Sunday when we had no day off. And I just ate, there's nothing to eat, so I just end up eating loads. I can't stop myself, you know. I started eating some crisps, and then I just end up eating 5 packets of crisps, but like these are big packets, you know. And then I got the next day and I put like 4 kilos on or something.
Jeez.
I've sorted on it now. I'm back down to I'm on target now, so I don't think I cut much weight, you know. But everybody says I'm quite big for the weight, but I think I'm alright in the scales, you know. Like my weight's never too heavy then.
And obviously as well, with the 3 fights being quite close together then, does that affect you with the weight? Because normally you can have your fight, you can have a couple of days maybe binge or whatever, but you can't really do that because you're weeks away from fight number 2, aren't you?
Yeah, it's just amazing. And like, it's probably better because normally after my fight I binge for weeks and weeks till I get another fight and my weight goes ridiculous. Whereas this time I'll eat some crap the next day or the day after and that, and then back at the gym again, isn't it?
Yeah,
depending how hard the fight is.
well, it's a huge tournament. It's a huge opportunity. You don't want to throw it away over something trivial like that, do you?
No, not at all. It's all meant to be, isn't it? That's why I'm here.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show today, Andrew. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Oh, thank you very much. It's been nice talking to you. Thank you.
Before we let you go, I just want to give you a chance to do any shout-outs. You want to shout out any friends, family, sponsors, and let people know about your Facebook and your Twitter?
Yeah, I always forget about this, every time I always get by surprise. But mostly my manager, Gary Cross, he's been excellent, and he's sorted my sponsors out and everything. So I like to thank Fighters Only, it's my main sponsor, Grapple Fit, Combat Soap, Frontline Training, I always forget one, I can't really think of the one, but all my family and friends back home, and I can't wait to see them again in a week.
And are you on Twitter as well?
Yeah, it's Andrew Fisher 9.
And then obviously they can follow that. It's Andrew Fisher on Facebook, isn't it, as well?
And Andrew Fisher on Facebook and Andrew Fisher 9 on Twitter.
Well, brilliant. Well, thank you very much for coming on to today's show.
I am now joined by UFC flyweight Phil Harris. Phil will be fighting on the UFC card in Manchester against John Lineker. Phil, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, good to be here, thanks.
Well, I know we spoke to you a while back. We spoke to you in the build-up to your last UFC fight, which was against Ulysses Gomez. So let's talk a little bit about that fight. What was it like to get your first UFC victory?
Yeah, it's a big sort of almost relief to get that first victory under your belt in the UFC. It's almost like starting your career again. Once I got to the UFC, it felt like I'm starting again in the big league this time now. So getting that first win, is an important win for me. It's made me feel a lot more comfortable. Makes me feel that I belong in the UFC. So it's a big relief. But also, I knew I was capable of doing it. So it was good to get that first win.
Did you feel any added pressure going into the fight? Because of course, after the fight, your opponent was actually released from the UFC. So did you feel added pressure going into the fight, knowing that you were you hadn't won yet in the UFC?
I was quite aware that if the fight didn't go my way, I would more than likely be cut. But that never crossed my mind. I was so confident that I was going to win the fight. That never entered my mind. So no, there's no added pressure there. I just knew that this fight was going to be my fight to win, sort of thing. So,
what was it like as well, fighting in front of a UK crowd in the UFC as well?
That definitely helps. Like I say, my next fight's going to be in the UK again. It's just great to have the UK support. It does make a difference. It just gives you that little extra push that you need. It's good, great to have the fans behind you.
Yeah, I think it definitely helps having the crowd geeing you up. Now, the last time you competed was in February. Has there been a reason for the layoff, or or has it just been scheduling?
Yeah, I was meant to fight in August, and I fractured my orbital bone around my eye.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a serious fracture, but it was enough, obviously, so I couldn't fight. It was literally like 2 weeks or 3 weeks before my scheduled fight in August. So it was basically one of my last hard sparring sessions. It happened. Got it checked out that week. It turns out that it was a small fracture, so I had to lay off another 3 months basically.
Yeah, that's harsh, isn't it? But you've got to be careful, haven't you? How disappointing was it though to get that type of injury? Getting obviously wanting to build on your UFC win.
Yeah, it was a massive disappointment for me because the fight that I had lined up was in Brazil, in Rio, so it's on a massive fight card. Jose Aldo was the main event. It was really got me down for a bit, but luckily it's not a long-term injury, and like I say, I'm back like 3 months later. So and I was still able to train because apart from the sparring, I could still hit the pads, I could still wrestle, I could still do my jiu-jitsu. So I didn't have to get unfit or anything. I just carried on my training, but without sparring for like 8 to 10 weeks or so.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we talked a little bit about fighting in the UK, in front of the UK crowd in the UFC. You obviously, the last event was obviously London. This one's going to be Manchester, but I think this card as well tends to be more UK dominated, where in the previous card there was a few mixed fights which was non-UK. So is it exciting being part of pretty much an all UK card with every fighter's got a UK fighter against an international fighter?
Yeah, I've noticed that. It's going to be a great night for the UK. I think it'd be awesome if we could, every single one of us, get the win that night. I mean, what a night that'd be. It's going to be amazing to hopefully all the fighters get behind each other and it just be a good atmosphere. And hopefully everyone will get every UK guy will get the win that night.
It'd be amazing. I think it just shows how much UK MMA has come on, that the UFC can actually put on a card. A bit like they do in Brazil with the Brazilian fighters, where every fight's got a Brazilian fighter in, and now we've got every fight getting a UK fighter in, which is great.
Yeah, definitely. It just shows that the UK there's so many great fighters in the UK. They're just not signed to the UFC. But now the UFC is slowly signing more and more, and it's got to the point now that every fight in this on this card is a UK guy. So it's slowly building up in the UK. It just goes to show.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Well, let's talk a little bit about your opponent then. You're facing a Brazilian, John Lineker. His record is currently 22-6, which is pretty similar to your record, and he's 3-1 in the UFC. So what are your thoughts on John Lineker as an opponent?
Yeah, I mean, he was the opponent I was meant to fight before I got injured as well. So the opponent's not changed. And when I got injured, he still had the fight. So he got an opponent when I got injured as a replacement. He won that fight. Let's say he's 3-1 in the UFC, so he's ranked 6th in the world or something. So this is a great fight for me because once I beat him, I'll be definitely in the top 10 in the world, really. So I just think it's a great fight for me, and I believe I can beat him.
It is a great fight, and he's certainly, of course, beatable. I mean, everybody is beatable, and you wouldn't be in there if you couldn't win the fight. But like you say, if you are able to get if you do get the win and you do move up the rankings, putting yourself in the top 10 on a 2-fight win streak, that's going to put you in a really, really strong position within the UFC.
Yeah, for sure. Like I say, in the flyweight division where it's so small, although they have signed a few more guys recently, you only have to get a few wins, and before you know it, you could be in line for a title shot. So and to beat a title contender, which John Lineker is now, it will really get my name in the picture, sort of thing. People will start standing up, taking notice of me.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about the flyweight division being a small division, which of course it is, but it's also a stacked division. I mean, there's some amazing fighters in there. Have you got any other fighters in there that you'd like to watch and in the future you'd like to compete against?
Obviously, I think the top 3 fighters, obviously Demetrius Johnson, champion, and I believe the best 2 in the division, John Dodson and Joseph Benavidez. I mean, them 3 are the cream in the division. Watching them is, they're very, very good. I mean, hopefully I get to fight one of them maybe after this fight. It might be another one later on down the line. But they're probably the top 3 ranked guys in the division, and then after that you've got like the John Moragas and the Ian McCalls and John Linekers. So once I beat John Lineker, I'll be in that sort of picture, and like you say, you never know, I might get a title shot, one more decent win against a high ranked guy, a top 5er. You don't know what doors can open for you.
Absolutely right, and like you say, you're on the brink now. It's in your hands, isn't it? So obviously, I wish you all the luck. I know we're a few weeks out. We're about 5 or 6 weeks out from the fight yet. Well, probably 6 or 7 weeks.
7 weeks tomorrow.
7 weeks tomorrow. Okay, so I wish you all the luck. I hope training goes well. I'll be there in the arena cheering on all the UK guys, and I just hope things continue to go well, and you can move on up the ladder.
Yeah,
thanks very much. Yeah, you'll see me win that night, no doubt.
I'm looking forward to it. I enjoyed watching you win last time. Before we let you go, I just want to give you a chance to do any shout-outs. If you want to shout out any friends, family, sponsors, and let people know about your Facebook and your Twitter so the fans can follow you as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I would like to thank my wife. She just does everything for me, makes everything run smoothly at home, so I can do all my training and not have to worry about nothing back at home. All the guys down at Gym 01, my trainers, Bri Adams, he does loads for me. My management team, Intensity Fight Management, just make sure everything behind the scenes runs smooth. JY Nutrition, there's Smuggling Duds, there's lots of sponsors out there that's just always helping me out. So without them it'd be hard to do this sport really. So you do need your sponsors to help you out. So thanks for helping me out, guys.
And how can the fans follow you on Facebook and Twitter?
The best way to follow me on Twitter is Phil Harris, Phil Harris MMA. Follow me on Twitter and keep an eye out on how my training's going.
Brilliant. Well, we appreciate you giving us time today. So obviously while you're during your training camp, and we wish all the luck with everything.
Lovely. Thanks very much.
Okay, we're now joined by Bradley Scott. Brad will be fighting soon on the UFC Fight Night in Manchester against Michael Kuiper. Brad, thank you for coming back onto the show.
How you doing, mate? You right? Long time no see.
Yeah, I'm very well, thanks. It's been a couple of months, so it's nice to get you back on. Now I know you've got a big fight coming up, but like I say, it has been a few months since we spoke, so just thought we'd have a little bit of a catch up. You haven't fought for a while. I just wondered if there was a reason behind the layoff.
I had a really bad injury actually. I was I bruised doing some Olympic weightlifting. I bruised my leg.
Okay.
And then some magic somehow I ended up getting a huge infection.
Ooh.
And because I thought it was just a bruising, I thought maybe I'd tore a muscle or strained a muscle or something ever so silly. I didn't realise you can get an infection from a bruise or something. So it just didn't make sense. And then so I just kept ignoring it, and I thought, bloody hell. I used to criticise all these footballers for having so long out over a torn muscle, and I thought, Jesus Christ, maybe I'm the pussy, do you know what I mean? I thought, what's going on there? So I thought, I was in so much pain, I went to the hospital, and I said, look, I'm in agony, I've hurt my leg, I've bruised it, I dropped the weight on it, and it's been painful, and now it's like unbearable, it's like ridiculously unbearable now, I can hardly drive, hardly get in and out of the car. Is there anything you can do? And they took my temperature. There was no rise in temperature. I felt good everywhere else. I had no fevers or anything. And when they touched it, obviously I told them they weren't allowed to touch it again because it hurt too much. I asked some painkillers. They wouldn't give me any painkillers. They wouldn't even give me codeine. I asked for some sleeping tablets to see if I could get some sleep. Pretty much laughed in my face. Said there's not a chance. Like I was faking it. And I was a bit upset. Week went by. I was now bedbound. I couldn't get out of my bed. I couldn't drive. I couldn't go up and down stairs. I had to literally crawl to the toilet with one of my legs straight to go for a piss, etc. I couldn't really shower. I had to strip wash. I couldn't get in and out of the bath. Then my dad had enough. He drove me back to the hospital. This time they said they were going to give me what's the scan you get when you have a baby? You put the little thing over your belly.
Yeah, I know what you mean, like a ultrasound.
Ultrasound. They were going to do ultrasound on my leg to see what it was, but that was in 6 weeks' time.
Oh God!
So obviously I got a bit upset about that, and then I come back home. I was almost crying. I started getting nightmares. Then I started sweating. By this time I knew something was up. Bear in mind the doctors still hadn't given me any pain relief or anything, so I had to go black market. I had to ask a few friends who had some morphine and some sleeping tablets to help me out. It didn't really make much of a difference, to be fair. And then I rang up Peter Culliford. He does he looks after my body when I'm in a state, basically, my physiotherapist. And he said, it sounds like you've got an infection you need to get, or some sort of infection or abscess. You need to get an MRI scan done straight away. And I said, okay. And he booked me one the next morning So my dad had to take a day off work, drove me all the way to Bristol, which is about an hour's drive. I had my scan done, and by the Monday, the results come back. They said I needed an operation straight away.
Jeez.
I had I think it was like an 11 centimetre by 5 centimetre abscess, and then I had a collection of abscesses underneath. And then they went straight into hospital. And then, bear in mind, the NHS still wouldn't see me because I went private for the MRI. I then had to get a doctor's referral. Luckily, I knew one of the doctors quite well, obviously from training, etc. And he sorted me out. He signed me off straight away. I went straight to Bath IUH, and they operated within 3 hours.
Let me know.
And they put me on fentanyl, morphine, diazepam. I was on everything. I was off my nut. And I was still in pain, and I had to have 2 operations, and I turned down the 3rd operation. They gave me an option. I could have a 3rd operation to make sure it was all clean, or I could stay on antibiotics for longer or something stupid. And I said, look, I'd rather stay on antibiotics for longer and not be operated on again. And I ended up going from 100 kilos down to 86 kilos in 4 weeks.
And how long did the doctors leave you then? How were you left like that? Like with them not doing anything? Did that go on for weeks and weeks?
Well, bear in mind, an infection is very quick acting. So the whole thing was probably about 3.5 weeks.
Yeah.
And then I had the operation.
But doctors just weren't taking you seriously at all.
Well, yeah, but I went to the hospital twice as well. This is the thing that we would make such a fuss about. Because I didn't go to... on one of the times, I had to see an out-of-hours doctor.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't make a GP appointment because it was a Sunday, and I had to go and see an out-of-hours doctor, and they still didn't do anything.
Crazy.
So I was really bad, and I got a huge scar on my leg. Now it's massive. It still hurts when I get kicked there now, but it's getting much better for all the sparring. Yeah. I had a lot of... Apparently the type of abscess it was muscle rotting or muscle eating or something. I'm not really switched on when it comes to all the doctors stuff, etc. Yeah. But I lost a lot of muscle in my leg, and it took a long time, a lot of rehabilitation to get it back to where it is now.
It's unbelievable. How hard has it been for you to watch? I mean, there's been quite a few contestants now from the house that have gone on and fought and done well. And how hard has it been for you to sit and watch it all happening, not being able to get in?
Well, it was more frustrating because I had all my money set up and I was ready to go on my training camp. You know, I was literally ready to go.
Yeah.
I was literally leaving for TriStar, meant to be leaving for TriStar 3 days before my operation. So I was waiting for it to get better. Every day I was waiting for it to get better.
It just wasn't.
Everyone was ringing me up, telling me to do different things. Rest up, put this on it, put that on it, put this on it. No. You know what I mean? So I didn't even get to go. So I was gutted, really. And I had to wait so much longer to start training again. And I've only just really got back in good, half-decent shape. So
you're obviously training now. Where are you training at the moment? So I know you're in the US.
Yeah, I'm in Arizona at the MMA lab with John Crouch.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, so, it's awesome.
Let's move away a little bit then from the injury. Now, of course, when we saw you last, or when I spoke to you last, you were fighting at welterweight, and you were toying with the idea of going to middleweight. You obviously have gone to middleweight. What was the reasoning behind that?
I like food. There's no other reason. I do not like cutting weight. I never have liked cutting weight. I'm a pussy when it comes to getting in the hot baths. You can ask anyone. I do not like sweating. When I can't put water back in me, I'm not a fan of it at all. And I thought I would put a little bit of muscle on, hit the weights a little bit, and go to middleweight.
How did you find the cutting weight in the house then when you were fighting at welterweight?
Horrific.
Was it
absolutely disgusting?
Was it really difficult?
Apart from, I think Bowler made it look the easiest, but apart from Bowler, me, Luke, and Valentino, we all struggled to make weight.
Yeah.
Bowler was pretty switched on. Despite looking the biggest, he wasn't. If you know what I mean.
So are you looking forward then to making your UFC middleweight debut?
Yeah, thank fuck, innit? Yeah.
And
I'm walking around at 200 pounds now as well.
Oh wow! So
which is lighter than when I was a welterweight.
Really? So the cut will be quite good for you then at 185.
I could make weight next week. I could fight at the weekend.
And do you think that will leave you feeling fresher going into the cage?
I hope so. I know one thing. I've been thinking less of cutting weight in the camp and more about learning to fight.
Yeah, and obviously that's so you're able to focus more on the training.
On training rather than just cutting weight all the time.
Now, obviously, you're facing Michael Kuiper, who's currently 1-2 in the UFC. He's had a mixed bag. He's faced some tough opposition. He's looked good in his win against Jared Haman. Obviously, he got caught against Tom Lawler. What are your thoughts on Michael Kuiper as an opponent?
Well, to start off with, losing to Tom Lawler, there's no shame in that. The guy's a beast. And he also fought the other guy. Is it Mendez? What's the guy's name he fought? He lost to him.
He lost to, I've got it here actually. On his debut, he lost to, was it Rafael Natali lost to, wasn't it?
That's it, Natal Mendez. Yeah. What the fuck am I on about?
Yeah.
But yeah, he's really good as well, mind.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
He's really good. And I think that'd be like, those two are nightmare opponents for me as well. And the one win he did get, I know everyone was saying, the guy he fought, he tore his knee, and that's why it was so easy to defeat him afterwards, and it could have been different if he didn't tear his knee. But he kicked him in the leg in the first place to tear the knee.
Yeah. No,
it's not like he just magically tore while he was prancing around.
The guy who was facing was very tough as well. Jared Haman's a very good opponent. It was a fantastic win. It was a fantastic fight.
It was good for him, yeah. It was very, very good. I mean, the results might have been different if he didn't damage the leg, but at the end of the day, he still banged him out.
Yeah.
I mean, he took it to him and knocked him out. You can't really argue with that.
He's known for his judo as well. He was showing that quite a bit against Tom Lawler because he started off really strong against Lawler because I was at that event in Sweden and he was throwing him around quite a bit, but then obviously Lawler got the choke. But are you looking at his judo and working out counters to that?
Yeah, trying. I've watched. I started doing some judo myself a while back with Doug Dixon. He's actually ex-GB squad, so he was at a higher level than Kuiper is, but I was getting thrown around all over the place. So it's not very nice, but there are a few basic things you can do to sort of stop the judo. You've got to eliminate that space in the clinch so that he can start throwing you around and not giving him stuff to throw you with. So I've been working on a little bit of Greco back at home to stop the throws, etc. Dropping my level at the last minute, blast doubles, etc. Which isn't actually Greco, but we'll get onto that at a later date. And I think it's going to be tough no matter what. I mean, he's a really good opponent for me. He's got good hands, he's got good kicks, he's really good on the floor. I think he's won a lot of his fights by submission, and he's got good throws. So it's going to be, I don't know, we'll see, won't we? We'll see on October the 26th.
Yeah, it's going to be a great fight. What are your thoughts on fighting on the UFC in UK, the UFC card in the UK?
I prefer it. I was meant to fight in Brazil before, but I prefer to fight at home in the UK.
I'm
glad I'm fighting here. I mean, I've got the crowd on my side.
Yeah.
Hopefully that'll give me like 10% to speed, mana, dexterity, magic. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hopefully that'll help out a little bit.
Yeah, you'll certainly have the crowd behind you. There's obviously, they've stacked the card with a lot of talented fighters from the UK, so I think the crowd's going to be really up for the event. It's going to be a really good event, I think.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be awesome. Got Watson, Bisping, Wilkinson, Norman Park, everyone fighting.
Yeah,
awesome.
Ross Pearson as well. Now,
Ross Pearson and Jimmy Manuel. Sorry, I couldn't forget those two. Bigger names.
The whole card is absolutely stacked. Now, the other thing I wanted to say, I'm pretty sure, going on memory, and I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure you're the first fighter to come out of the house and go up a weight. Is that correct?
I think so, yeah.
So you're making history then?
I think I am making history, yeah. But not only that, I was still growing. I mean, I put a bit of height on as well. Since the house, I was only, 22, 23 or something.
Yeah.
I'm actually, I've only just stopped growing. Literally, I'm taller now than what I've ever been.
Wow.
It's weird. I thought you stopped growing at 18, but obviously that's not the case. I carried on growing, and now I'm bigger than I've ever been in terms of frame and stuff.
So what was the UFC's response when you said you were going to go up to middleweight?
Probably devastated or shocked, I expect. They're like, what the hell is he doing? But no, I don't care anyway. I prefer being a middleweight. I'm still sparring. I hold my own with middleweights. I've sparred with loads of middleweights. They're no bigger than me at all. In fact, some of them are smaller than me.
Yeah.
So I know for a fact I've stood next to Tom Watson before, and he won't remember it. It's a long time ago. But he wasn't that much bigger than me then when I was a welterweight.
So you're just looking forward to getting in there now. There's obviously you've been out for a while. I bet you just can't wait to just get back in and show everyone what you can do.
I hope I can show him what I can do. Hopefully I'm going to knock him out. Hopefully I'm going to just, completely destroy him. But you know how fight goes when there's two people in there and both of you have been training hard. It never really seems to go like that unless it's a perfect fight.
Yeah.
So hopefully I'm going to do my best and take him out. I want to finish. I do not want to go to decision again. Decisions are shit and boring.
Yeah.
I do not. My last 3 fights have been decisions. I never want a decision again.
I think the last fight, I know you didn't win the decision, but it was a good fight though. It wasn't a boring fight.
Well, a lot of that was probably down to me being a tight ass and not paying for my own hotel or something prior. Because I was only in Australia like 3 days before the weigh-in.
Yeah.
You know, I really wanted to get there earlier than that so I could like settle down and stuff. And I was so tired for the fight all the way through.
Yeah.
And even in the last round, I just felt like absolutely dead. I've never felt like that before. I've always been fresh, ready to go. I've always been able to keep a high pace on, lots and lots of pressure. But I just couldn't seem to do it.
It was funny.
I don't know what was wrong.
I spoke to Colin as well, and he said the same. He said he really struggled with the fighting in another country and with the travelling and whatever. He said it really affected his fight game. He said.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree with him. I reckon I would have beat Rob if I managed. Well, I won the second round, clear as day.
You did, yeah.
I reckon I would have won if I didn't go down to my ass like a clubby clown. I would have reckoned I would have won the first round as well. It's only because I got dropped.
Yeah.
When I watched it back, I landed more punches than he did. It was only because I bloody gassed in the fell on my ass in the first round and gassed in the last round.
It was certainly. Well, I think with the fact you won't have as much weight to cut and you're back on UK soil, hopefully that'll make a big difference for you in this fight. I think.
I got 2 weeks there as well to acclimatise.
Yeah.
So I should be absolutely fine.
Well,
fine.
It's been great having you back on the show. I really appreciate you coming back on and talking with me.
Yeah, no problem.
And before we let you go, I just want to give you a chance to any shout outs. You want to shout out any friends, family, and let people know about your Facebook, Twitter, and your sponsors?
Yeah, obviously I've totally forgot what all of them are right now, but just put my Brad Scott on Twitter and follow me. Yeah, I got to shout out to all my friends and family back at home. Miss you all, dogs, etc. And a big shout out to MMA Lab for having me here. Gary Costa sorting it out, and I'll be back to the Dragon's Lair to do some heavy sparring with the poor amateurs before my big fight in the UFC.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Cheers, Ray. That's all.
We are now joined by Martin Stapleton, who will be making his debut for Bellator in the next couple of weeks. Martin, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, no worries at all, mate. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. Obviously, I do want to talk to you about the Bellator tournament. It's a huge opportunity. Before we do that, I just want to get a little bit of your background. Now, you started fighting professionally in 2007. What got you into mixed martial arts?
Nothing in particular. Obviously, same old stuff as probably most people back then. Watched a few UFC DVDs and that, and decided I fancied having a go with it. And me and my pal Derek Cullen drove up to over to Dave Butlin and Ian Butlin's gym over in Diggle, and that was where I had my first MMA session, and I got my ass kicked big time. So I thought I'd better learn it.
When you first went over there then to train, was it quite an eye opener about how effective it was?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought I was a bit of a tough guy because I'd had plenty of street fights and done a bit of boxing, and I was in the Marines and stuff like that. So I obviously thought I could handle myself, and I went over and trained with like I said, Dave Butlin, Ian Butlin, Andy Butlin, and that first session I come home pretty embarrassed of myself. So I just thought it's something I wanted to do, and I needed to learn it, and I'm a pretty determined person when I get to the right hand, so that's where it stemmed from there.
What was the biggest thing that surprised you then about the MMA? Was it the grappling aspect to it?
Yeah, well, everything, to be honest, because back then I was lifting a lot of weights and stuff, and I was probably about 14.5, 15 stone. And the Butlin brothers were all knocking around about 12 stone then. And even my pal who sat with me there, Derek Key, lifetime judo player, he's about 12 stone. So I went over there thinking I was bigger, and that would be able to tough these guys around. And like I said, I got my ass kicked. It was surprising that the guys who were so much smaller than me at the time, were that able to, just by using technique and not through using strength, and were able to, decisively handle me, is what we'll say.
It obviously worked out well. I think if you'd have gone over there and found it easy, maybe you wouldn't be where you are now. Now you're currently 12-1. What are some of your personal highlights so far?
Winning the Cage Contender tournament's probably what I'm most proud of within MMA. I'd say that fight. Another fight that stands out to me is the one when my first fight back after I'd been to Afghan, and I'd quite a break from the sport. I was in Afghan for like 8-9 months, and then I had about a year off before that for training for it and stuff, and then I came to the sport and fought on FCC and against Shah Hussein. I'm quite pleased with that fight. Even though it wasn't a spectacular fight by any means, it was quite a steady fight. I won in the second round by submission, but I was just happy to get it out of the way and get to come back and do that.
Obviously, like you say, you were away with the Marines for a while. Did you? Obviously, I'm sure you were missing quite a lot of different things from home, but did you miss mixed martial arts?
Massively, mate. It was always my plan to come back to do it professionally. Always my plan. It's been my plan since the first day I stepped on the mat. And anything I do, I'm doing it to be the best in the world. If I'm not interested in doing anything by half, no matter what it is. If 5 years time I decide to give this up and go into washing cars or something, I'll be the best car washer in the world as well. So it was always my plan to get back into it full time and train full time.
And it's obviously paying off, and we're starting to see how much it's paying off now. Let's talk a little bit about. I mean, you have had some really big career moments already, and I know there's going to be more to come. You were one of the cast members of The Ultimate Fighter Season 9. You made it into the house. What was it like being part of that?
It was good. It was a good achievement. I learned more about the way the sport works than I did actually about techniques of fighting and stuff. It was a good experience. It was a letdown in some ways. I don't know how to explain what I mean. It was, I don't know, it seemed like the camera crews are always, it's almost like they're more interested in what goes on in the house than what actually goes on in training. But that's something that I've got to take on my shoulders and no one else's, because I let that happen. I allowed myself to get drawn into that. I should have been a step above that and just focus on the training. At the time in the house, because I turned up there and I was like only part time. I was still in the Marines at the time, so I was only training part time. And when I turned up there and people were saying good things about me, I got a bit of hype behind me and all that. I let it get to my head, and ultimately it's my fault, and that's the reason that I believe I lost the fight that I lost. But again, that's my fault, and I've learned a lot from it, and I've grown a lot since then. And I listen to a lot of people, like my coaches, like mainly Colin Heron, who it talks to me a lot of philosophy about fighting and just analysing fights and analysing performance and stuff, and Andy Aspinall does as well. And I learned a lot from all that experience, and now I believe it's my time now. So being in the Ultimate Fight was good. It was bad, but it was a learning curve.
Did you know anyone going into the house?
What, as in the lads who were going in with me?
Yeah.
Well, I knew Andre a little bit. Me and Andre were both under Cage Contender management at the time, so we knew each other a little bit. I knew Ross a little bit. Who else? I knew Dean a little bit as well. That's about it, really. Oh, Gary Kelly, yeah. Well, saying that Gary didn't come over to America with us, but yeah.
Did you know much? Did you know Michael Bisping at all, or was that the first time training with him and meeting him?
I've met him a few times, but I wouldn't really say I knew him. I knew of him. I've met him a few times, I spoke to him a few times, but we didn't know each other personally back then.
And what was he like to train with?
Mike Sound. He's a good guy. He gets a lot of stick from people, but you know what it is with Mike? Mike is Mike on camera and off camera, on wherever he is. He doesn't put on a show for the crowd. He's just himself at all times. So what you see is what you get. And I like a person like that. Do you know what I mean? Mike is Mike. He's good to train with. He turns up. He trains hard. And that's it. Really. That's all I can say about Mike. He's a tough guy as well.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Michael Bisping. Well, you mentioned a little bit about Cage Contender. Now, you took part in a one night 8-man tournament. What was it like fighting 3 times in one night?
Do you mean mentally or physically?
Well, both. I mean, it must have been draining.
Physically, conditioning wise, it was fine. You'll never see me gas out in a fight. Any professional mixed martial artist who goes out and gasses in a fight needs to get a new job. Do you know what I mean? You don't see a plumber going home halfway through the day because they're not physically capable of doing the job anymore. Yeah. So you'll never see me gas out in a fight. If I've got to do 3 fights in one night, you'll see me go and do 3 fights in one night without gassing out because it's my job. But it was, on the other hand, I had an extremely bad injury at the time in my lower back. So that was very painful. In between fights, I was getting, my brother was standing all over my back and stuff and giving me massages, trying to bring me back down because I don't know if you noticed in the fight, but my mobility was almost zero because my back was so bad. I mean, mentally, I don't really suffer from anything mentally. I don't really care. Fight's a fight to me, and I just believe in my training, believe in my coaches, believe in my training partners, and believe in myself. So if it's 1 fight or 3 fights, who cares? Just get in and do it.
And it paid off. I mean, it was a fantastic tournament, a fantastic win. Let's talk a little bit about Bellator. You're going to be fighting on the Bellator main card at Bellator 101. How much does this opportunity mean to you?
Well, it's what I've been waiting for. That was the plan when we went into the Contenders tournament. The plan was to get that under our belt, get 3 fights, get the win. It was good because it was on TV. I had a lot of hype behind it as well, and I knew I was going to win that. And then hopefully, it was then to go on to bigger things, and that's what's happened. As far as what it means to me, it's everything because it's a massive opportunity. I'm 3 fights. If I win the tournament, all 3 fights in the tournament, I get a world title fight next year. And I'm 3 fights away from being the first British person ever to win a major world title. So how much bigger can it get? It means everything to me.
It's absolutely amazing. Now you've got a very tough first round matchup. You're facing Saeed Awad, who was the runner up in last year's tournament. What are your thoughts on him as an opponent?
I have no thoughts on him at all as an opponent. I don't know the guy personally. I don't know. That's not my job. That's Colin Kevin, his head coach. That's his job. He'll tell me how to deal with him as an opponent. He'll tell me. I've not watched any of his videos or anything. I've not YouTubed him. I've not done anything. Colin does all that. Colin will tell me what to do. I believe what Colin tells me. I trust what he tells me to do, and I'll go out and do it. I'm just thinking about me. I'm not going to think about my opponent. I want to think about me. I want to think about my skills and what I do. He can think about his skills.
No, that's fair enough. Have you taken that kind of response with the whole of the bracket then? Have you not really looked at the bracket? You're just focusing on yourself and obviously making it.
Yeah, that's it for me. For me, there's 8 guys in the tournament. 7 guys are going to lose. 1 guy's going to win, and I'm going to win. That's it. That is it. That's all I'm focusing on: winning the tournament and then getting the world title shot next year. That's it.
Now, of course, we had 2 UK guys in the tournament, and we've obviously now got 1 due to unfortunate circumstances. What's it like now, knowing you've got the whole of the UK now rooting for you, wanting you to go on and take this tournament by storm?
Well, first of all, before I answer that, let me just quickly that Rob Sinclair's an extremely good friend of mine, a personal friend. So I'd just like to wish Rob the best and a speedy recovery while we've got the chance on her. Like I say, I love Rob to bits, man. I hope he gets better quickly. As far as your question goes, I think, it wouldn't matter. We have the whole of the UK behind us both anyway, don't we? Me and Rob, we're going to go out there and we're going to go and do our thing. Obviously now Rob's not in the tournament, that's all on me. It's brilliant. I don't feel any pressure by it at all. Literally zero. But I'm obviously very happy that the UK is going to get behind this and go and watch me go and kick some ass.
Are you pleased as well that it's going to be on in the UK so that your UK fans can watch it as well? Because obviously previously it's only been on in the US. Yeah,
of course, it's going to be huge for me. It's because normally when we go to fight, I have a lot of people come to watch my fight from me. Like Ommac or wherever it is. I normally take quite a lot of people from Rochdale. lads come up from the Marines as well. So when I'm fighting in America now, it would have been a shame for them not to be able to watch the fights. But obviously, I've got the UK deal now on Viva, which helps me out a lot. That's why I'm happy with that, yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. And you're right what you say about Rob. I've been lucky enough to have Rob a few times on the show.
Yeah.
And it's such a shame. And like you said, the UK was behind, of course, was behind both of you. It's great to see UK guys getting given such a great opportunity, because I think the UK scene's very underestimated. There's a lot of people that work very hard over here, and they don't always get the credit they deserve. So
really underestimated. Like Rob was matched up against Richie Clemente, and obviously everyone knows who Richie is because he's been in the UFC. He's had 4 fights and that. But I'm guarantee you now, that fight would have. Rob was absolutely dominated, and people don't understand how good Rob Sinclair is. And there's a lot of other guys in the UK at that level who nobody, not that nobody knows about us, but people underestimate us because we're just from the UK or whatever. But we'll see about that, won't we?
Absolutely, I can't wait to see it. I love watching Bellator, and I've always enjoyed watching you work your way up. So I can't wait to see you make the impact on the international stage.
Thanks, man.
Well, before I let you go, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. I just want to give you a chance to do some shout-outs. I want to shout out any friends, family, sponsors, and let people know about your Facebook and your Twitter as well.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Obviously, first and foremost, I always thank my team, Full Contact Performance and Team Calibon. And obviously all my sponsors that have helped me throughout my career. Cross.Next been my main sponsor. www.crosstech.co.uk. They've been helping me out since I turned professional, really. Monkey Nutrition, ARD Industrial Services, XI Go Strength, Miss Galaxy Universe. Thanks a lot to everyone who watches the fights and whoever's going to be listening to this interview.
And let people know about your Twitter and Facebook as well, so that the fans can follow you as well.
Yeah, you know what? I can't get into Twitter.
Okay.
I've been using it. I'm on it. I'm the States 50 cal. I think it's at States 50 cal, something like that. I use it, but I just can't get into it. But on Facebook as well, we've got a fan page, is Martin 50 cal Stapleton. That's the only time you hear me refer to myself as Martin, by the way. I hate that name. It's Stapes. Right. But yeah, that's the fan page on Facebook as well if you want to get on there. I've got some video blogs on there over the next month as well.
So definitely,
get your ass on there.
Yeah, get on there, get liking that page. Well, thank you very much. It's been great having you on the show.
Man. No worries. Thanks for the call.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed the interviews this week. We've got some great things lined up for next week as well. The new segment, Potentia Performance with Dave Bond, continues. So if you've enjoyed that, obviously check that out again next week. We'll be working with the #1 promotion in Canada as they count down to MFC 38 behind enemy lines. We have 2 fighters who will be competing on that card: Smiling Sam Alvey, who's obviously a former guest of the show, and headliner Anthony Burchak. 2 UFC fighters have also agreed to come on next week. They were due to come on this week, but we've rescheduled. So that's Mike the Warrior Wilkinson and Luke Barnett. They're both fighting on the UFC in Manchester card. And I'm also in talks with a TUF 18 contestant who made it into the house to do a weekly segment giving us all the gossip from the house. It's something I've wanted to do for a while. I've chatted with this contestant. He's interested. I just need to get confirmation from the UFC that it's okay to go ahead. So definitely check that out so we can let you know who that is next week. And thank you for listening.